Welcome to the Finding Purpose podcast. My name is Adam. I am so grateful for everyone who had the opportunity to listen to my end of the year episode where I really was able to unpack 2024, talk about some wins, talk about some losses, talk about growth. I do encourage you to revisit that if you haven't been able to catch up. Last week was a great episode. I was able to have my friend Maria Rodriguez here. She actually flew up here from Texas, and we really had an awesome talk about her journey from being a poor immigrant family and then really building her business and entering that entrepreneurial life and the mindset that comes along with it. So today I'm grateful because I have my friend Shania Jay here. And it's funny because I reached out to her after seeing her collaborate with a lot of the people who I collaborate with in my network through Warm Heart Life and Brandon Godoris. We're both connected to the same people, had gone to similar events, but our paths recently had crossed when we visited with Michael Latour and his event in the city that he hosts every year with his holiday party, who's also actually been on this podcast. Actually, everybody I mentioned just has been on this podcast, which is pretty cool. But, you know, at the time I knew who she was. I was inspired by a lot of the things that you post and the message that you really lead with. And I was like, I got to have you here. So welcome.
Thank you.
You know, I'm super grateful that you took the time to come up here.
I'm super grateful for you. I feel honored to even be here, be speaking with you. All those great names that you just mentioned that sat in this very chair.
Yeah. Well, some of them sat in the chair. Some of them I did virtually. Okay. A lot of them were early on. They were early supporters who just really believed in me and believed in what I was doing. And it was like Zooms in my kitchen. And, you know, now it's grown to like people coming to me, which I really, really appreciate because at the end of the day, obviously the theme is finding purpose. And, you know, the goal of this podcast has always been to just talk to people about the things that they've gone through and their stories and what led them to discover what their path of life and what leads them today. You know, given that we just shared that, you know, we haven't really had that much interaction.
Yeah.
You know, I'd love to just kind of start from the beginning. You are young, you're vibrant, and you have a lot of spirit, which I gravitate towards. So tell me a little bit about like just the early Shania.
Yeah, thank you. I'm super excited too because it's like this is a podcast interview, but it's also like we're actually getting to know each other and build our own relationship. So you have another supporter in me now for
love that.
Everything that you're doing and everything that you're building. Early Shania was not thinking that she was going to end up in entrepreneurship at all. Early Shania was a very by the books girl. School was the most important thing. I like Maria. It's funny you mentioned her because that's a friend of mine also through the network.
Yep.
Same situation of immigrant family. So my whole family's from Trinidad and Tobago.
Okay.
So every single person in my family was born there except for me. So me being an American citizen makes me take it so much more for like what it is. Like I appreciate the fact that I have opportunities that my family didn't. So they all moved over here and, you know, they pushed school. They, you know, told me to study really hard and I did. I went to a good high school, good college. I graduated top of my class actually in the university. And I was really involved in extracurriculars and like everything like that. And I was on path to go into corporate America after I graduated. And then what happened for me was that I graduated in 2020, which was COVID. So world shut down, all my internships got terminated, and my like regular job that I was doing at the time was also bartending. So all of the bars shut down. So basically all at the same time, the world went on pause, and like a lot of people I think figured out, okay, I need to do something different, and that was the situation for me. So I gravitated to the online space, and I started learning how to create income digitally. And that was 2020 and it's 5 years later. And now that is full time. I work online full time. I'm remote. I'm very grateful and blessed. I started in the finance industry and I kind of just branched out. And right now my main like love in the sales world is helping people, or in the business world, I should say, is helping people through sales. Because I think that sales is a touchy subject for a lot of people because people think that it's like sleazy or people are trying to get them. For me, I approach it as anything that I'm doing, I just want to help people in their situation. So that's kind of what I do right now. And I travel a lot and I love to connect with people like yourself. And yeah, that's how early Shania got here.
I love that. I don't think I would have guessed Trinidad.
Yeah, nobody ever does.
Do you get like Latin American?
Every single time.
Whatever country?
Yeah. So it's funny because I lived in Spain for a few months and I learned Spanish there I tried my best to learn Spanish there. Yo intento. It's not good. But because everybody thinks I'm Spanish. So people will like come up to me and they'll speak Spanish. Just
I would have too. And I get that a lot too. Like, a lot of people think that I'm Dominican.
Where are you from?
My dad's Indian and my mom's Persian Jewish.
No way.
Yeah. So it's like totally different.
What a nice mix. What a nice combo.
People approach me all the time and they're like, just in Spanish. And I'm,
Hola.
now it's like I kind of know how to respond. Sometimes I'll play with them a little bit, but at the end of the day, it's like, nope, sorry. Like, and I feel like I should know how to speak at least another language, and I only speak English. Do you speak any other languages?
Well, Spanish now. I can hold a conversation.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that I'm like completely fluent, but I can get by and I can like have a actual like conversation where I understand what they're saying and they understand me. Speak a little bit of German. I lived in Germany as well for a little bit. And then I can say like hello and how are you in like Italian and French. And I say the most basic things. That's all though from my traveling. Because when I travel and if I'm in a different country, I do everything I can to try to be as immersed in the culture as possible. So.
Yeah, no, I think that's super important. I love like different cultures, and talk a little bit about like your culture, like being the only U.S. born member of your family. How was that like when it came to like? Do you come from a big family?
Yeah, a huge family. My immediate family is just my parents, my mother, my father, my brother, my sister. Okay. They're both older than me, and we're so close. Family is probably one of the most important things in my life. Not probably, it definitely is. So we're super close. We're a very passionate family. So like we love very hard, which also means we fight very hard. But the culture of Trinidad I love Trinidad also. I go there. We have a home there. I have so much family out there. Trinidad is like a safe space for me. But the culture of Trinidad is literally partying and drinking. That is the culture of Trini lifestyle. It's an island and it's an island vibe. I don't know if you've ever heard of like Trini carnivals, like how they have like carnival in Brazil and carnival.
I've heard of Brazil.
The entire country in Trinidad shuts down for like a month.
When is it?
I was actually there for the first time this past year. It's right after Ash Wednesday. I think that's in February or March. Okay. In the year. But there's like a Monday and Tuesday that are like the main days. Okay. I hope I'm saying this correctly. I might not be, and like all the Trinis are gonna be like, you don't know what you're talking about. But it's like in the beginning of the year and everybody gears up for it like the entire year. And like, it's just an entire party on the island. And so like every time that we go back there, I love being back there, but it's such a slow pace of living. People are just never in a rush, which is really good when you need that. But it's also for somebody like myself that's always moving and like kind of like in the grind. It can be a little bit like, okay, I need to be doing something.
So it's funny. So like you were like this bookworm growing up.
Yeah, 100%.
And, I think culturally, like I found that like with a lot of my guests who came from traditional family values, when they were growing up, that's what they were told to do. Mm-hmm. And that was kind of the pressures that they had, where it was just like, all right, just like dive into your studies. And it was like that traditional mold. And, as you grew up, how did you embrace that?
Honestly, it's really funny because like now that you say this, for me, I actually felt like being such a bookworm held me back in the entrepreneurship space. Because it's great to like get good grades, but then it's like that doesn't actually translate to anything in terms of real world skills, because I wasn't so like intelligent that, like I was just like, oh, this is great student. It was just that I was really good at like being able to memorize things, understand things, and then like procrastinate really hard, study right before an exam or an assignment was due, and then crush it. But in the real world, when you're actually looking at like your goals and the things that you need to accomplish in life, there is no like deadline. There's no assignment. There's no test. So it's like you are literally just holding yourself back if you choose to procrastinate. Whereas people that like I graduated with or like went to the same school with, they dropped out or they, still graduated, but like really didn't care as much, didn't stress too much. And they're killing it in the business world right now because they just don't overanalyze things the way that I find that I do sometimes. So I embraced it throughout university and stuff. And I thought it was awesome for like the internships that I was going to do after. But now in the lifestyle that I lead, I almost try to unlearn a lot of the things that I have learned through school.
No, I totally get that. I mean, I'm also like the type of learner where like I learn through experience rather than like looking at a book, and I wasn't like, from what it sounds like, you were someone who actually had to work hard.
Yeah.
I worked hard enough, but like when it came to just like sitting down, like I tested pretty well.
Yeah.
You know, like I crushed my SATs, and I was a pretty good writer.
Mm-hmm.
So like those are the skills that I kind of was able to really like pride myself on. But when it came down to just like being in a classroom setting and absorbing material, especially math and science, like I was just like, I don't comprehend this.
I don't understand.
But like, it was also like, I didn't want to put in the work as much. And because I don't know, I just wasn't the type of student who worked hard. Especially in my high school. But I don't want to say like I was naturally gifted in a sense, but like I'm smart, you know, like I would say that I'm a pretty intelligent person, and I was like a straight A student going probably up into 6th, 7th grade. But when I also started to like see all these different things, and then, you know, like relationships mattered and friendships mattered and socialization mattered. Yeah. I almost kind of was distracted by that, where like, yeah, I guess my studies suffered, but it was enough where I was like considered a decent student, you know. But you're right. Like when you get out of schooling and it's like, all right, like what have I learned here that can translate into success long-term for me?
Applicable.
And for you, it's a very unique situation. Did you grow up in Stanford?
I did. I was born and raised in Stanford. So
shit. Okay.
I love Stanford. And like a lot of people like think that I hate Stanford because I'm never there. And I think it's such a great city, but a lot of people just, I don't know.
I have a love-hate relationship with Stanford.
Yeah. I think because it's the hometown, you know, it's like it'll always have a place in my heart. But I also understand what you mean, because I don't like to stay in Stanford too long on account of it feels like I'll just get
like a bubble. Let's talk about that a little bit. Like because being kind of a trailblazer and a traveler, Stanford essentially is home. You know, and it's funny because I grew up in the Danbury area. I grew up in New Fairfield, and that's home.
That's where my first mentor is from. Actually.
Really?
Yeah, Danbury.
That's wild.
Area. Yeah,
crazy. That is wild. I wonder if I know them.
You might.
Who is it?
John Guaman. He's Ecuadorian. Now he lives in Miami. I actually
there's a lot of Ecuadorians in there. You know,
he's a great human, great guy. Shout out John.
But like, it's funny because I'll talk about my own experience. When I go back to my hometown in New Fairfield, I feel like it's home. It's always going to be home. I drive along the lake, and I remember doing that drive so many times in the past. When I was a teenager, usually doing bad things, or going to a party or meeting up with friends. You know, I drive by this plaza, Bruno's, used to be Bruno's, where we all used to just like meet up before we figured things out. You know, even like the high school, which is now a new high school, but like there's so many memories and milestones at just these visuals that, yeah, like it'll always be home. Do you feel the same way about Stanford? I do. Because it's also a city setting. I was very rural.
Yeah. I definitely do. But like for me, there's a lot of people that I know in Connecticut that like they go out for like a night out in Stanford. So they'll drive to Stanford to like for that city vibe. For me, I'm like, when I go to Stanford, like if I go out to the club, chances are I'm in sweatpants. Like chances are like I'm in sneakers and sweats, because I'm just like, this is so home for me. And like, as much as I love Stanford and I rep Stanford, and I'm really proud of like what the community is doing, because like what they're doing now with all these events and things that are going on. One of my internships, actually, when I was going to school, I worked for Stanford Downtown. So I actually like helped plan some of these events. But so like to see it and like what they're doing and like how lively of a city is great. But I just wish that more people in the city, or even just, I don't know, in Connecticut or in their small hometowns in general, would get out into the world more. Yeah. Because people's entire lives will change if they just decide to take a step out. I heard this quote way back, but it was essentially saying that your life is like a book, and if you never leave your hometown, you only stay in the table of contents. And as soon as I heard that, that kind of like flipped the switch in me, where I was just like, I want to see as much as I can in the world. I want to learn as much as I can about other people, other cultures, other areas. And you start to realize like how much is out there outside of just your little bubble that you live in and you stay in. And like, I have a lot of friends that have made it out of Stanford, and they moved to bigger cities or moved across the country or moved into different countries even. And their entire paradigm's different. The way that they look at life, at money, at their relationships, at their health, at their family, everything's different. So, I also have the friends that only have stayed in our hometown, and the conversations are more or less the same, and the topics of, what's going on are more or less the same. So I just wish I could really instill in people, just get out there. You don't even need to fly across to another country. Just go to a different city that you've never been to before.
State. Go to the Midwest and see how they live.
See what's going on over there.
Different.
See what's going on.
Yeah. It's funny, but what do you think caused that desire? And what I mean by that is I feel like a lot of the times that you kind of break the mold of the tradition that you were brought up with, something caused it, whether it was a feeling of being trapped, whether it was a feeling of just boredom, I think I'll speak from my own experience where there was a lot of turning points in my life where, my life took a turn and, some of them were traumatic, some of them weren't, was there a moment when you had that just realization that I don't want to just be stuck here. I want to explore. And what was that kind of come to Jesus moment about?
Yeah. For me, there were definitely a lot of moments that have shaped a lot of the way that I think and do things. When it comes to travel specifically, I can't say that there was a specific moment, but the first ever time that I solo traveled, I would call it solo traveling, because that's what I tend to do a lot.
Yeah.
I was 14 years old, and so I was a junior traveler. So they had to put a thing on me to let people know, let the aircraft know, she's alone, she's a minor. Really? Yeah. I don't know if they still do that, but that was my first ever experience. And I remember feeling
Scarlet
super weird. Yeah. I was this is so weird. Yeah. People are watching me. They just had to have their eyes over me because they were she's a minor traveling unaccompanied. And,
where are you going?
I was going to Florida, to Miami, actually.
Okay.
But it was to visit my sister. So that's why I'm it wasn't technically a real solo travel. But it was the first time that I did something on my own where I stood out on my own 2 feet and did something. And I went to go see my sister. I stayed with her and I was there for a month and then I flew back home. But I just loved the idea that I could pick myself up and then go. And I didn't need to it felt weird that I had all the air people holding over, but I was you guys, I'm fine. I'm super good.
Yeah.
And I'm thanks. But that was one of the first times in my life where I just appreciated the experience of getting out of my comfort zone and doing something different. And then that kind of just grew. So when I went to university, I knew 100% I was going to study abroad.
Where'd you go to school?
I went to Southern Connecticut State.
Okay, I love how you say when I went to university.
In New Haven.
Because
I'm so used to saying that.
I know, it's that old school,
uni.
I love that shit. It's so funny.
I'm what's crazy actually though? Southern was my last choice school. I applied to a whole bunch of big name schools and I got accepted to every single school that I applied because how we talked about my Book Smart, extracurricular, president of stuff. So I got accepted everywhere. And then after I sent out all the applications, my parents were listen, girl, maybe not. Maybe we can't pay that. So
we can swing this. Yeah.
You're going to stay in state. And I was okay. But I had only applied to 2 schools, Eastern and Southern.
New Haven, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I liked Southern. And commute? No, I lived there. I lived on campus. I tried to get as much of the experience as I could.
Yeah.
So lived on campus, roomed there all 4 years. And then I think my junior year is when I studied abroad and I lived in England. So I studied out in England and that was awesome too. And I think that's where uni got put in my head too. I always say university because they call it uni. They don't call it college or anything. So
you think that's where it was? I thought it was maybe the Trinidadian.
No, it might be a mix of both because also Trinidadian, they were British colonized. Yeah. So all of their England vernacular, that's all in
Trinidad. That's so funny. So you're, you go to uni, you have to come back because of COVID. What extracurriculars did you do?
Oh my gosh, I did a bunch of stuff. I was president of the marketing association on the campus.
Makes sense.
And that was I actually didn't even enjoy it. I hope nobody sees this.
Really?
I didn't love
I hope everyone sees this.
I didn't love it. I hope everyone sees this too. But maybe not the people in that club. Because it was great. But I was just it was so much pressure I felt. And I kind of only took on the president role because the president at the time was graduating and was like, listen, like step up. And I was like,
Hey, whatever.
okay.
President's president.
I was like, cool. Yeah. But so I did that. I volunteered a lot. I volunteered at a bunch of places since high school though. My mom got me into that. So I did that a lot. I did a modeling thing on campus, which was super fun. Did that for I think like 3 years. I feel like I did so many like random one-off things as well. But I think being in the campus community or just like in a community was always super important to me. Yeah. So I would just get myself out there and like be part of different clubs. I was in the Caribbean Association as well. Just because, you know, hey, got a rep.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to like attach myself to other people that were doing different things. I never had a clique in high school, in middle school, in college. I wanted to be the person that like I could adapt and be anywhere. And I'm grateful for that because that taught me how to just be a networker in life. So yeah, I was definitely a chameleon and I molded myself to, I could hang out with like the AP kids, but then I could also hang out with the kids down the block that grew up on the street with me. You know what I mean? And like the jock athletes, I did track for a little while there. And then the theater kids, I did theater for a little while there. So, you know, I was a mix of like,
well, I love that. I mean, I would consider myself the same. Like I played football. I didn't really play lacrosse. I sucked at lacrosse.
Lax, bro.
I was the worst. I played like one season and I think I got kicked off the team. But regardless,
get back to football.
Just because I was so bad and I showed up late and showed no effort. But like I was like one of those people too who could like blend with everyone and was friends with everyone. But for me, it stemmed from really having no sense of belonging. You know, where I felt that, and it was really driven by. Like, hey, maybe I could fit in here. Maybe I could fit in here. Maybe I could fit in here. And each place I didn't really feel like I fit in.
Yeah. Honestly, I kind of actually relate to that a bit. And it's funny because you obviously said, you know, your background, where you're from. So it's like, you're not white, but you're also not black. And I like had that in my brain growing up a lot because I was like, I don't know which like crew I belong to. When I was like really little, I was like, I don't know who I'm supposed to hang out with, like who is going to accept me for me. Yeah. Because I'm also not Spanish. And like that was just like something that I actually ended up writing my college application on, that of being somebody that every time that you fill anything out online, you have to click other. Well, I click other. Yeah. And I don't know. It was just like
I keep
interesting.
Guessing. I'm just like, which one? I'm like,
just like, hey,
what are they going to question?
Exactly.
Like, you know, like, fine, question.
What are they going to say? Where are you actually from? No, my records are actually crazy. I have to like reconfirm this with my family, but like when I can't remember what age. I remember we like did a deep dive into this. And I think it was like my health record said I was Asian. My school record said I was African American. And then like my something else said I was Caucasian. It was a lot of different things. And I was like, guys, it's like, what's going on here?
And you're like, I'm British.
I'm like, I'm actually Japanese.
That's so funny. So, you know, that's a great segue. Like, so identity, like what does identity mean to you? Like in a way, because now, you know, we go out into the world and everyone's identifying, and I'm not talking about like, I'm not trying to get political here where it's like, oh, I identify as, I'm talking about like everyone's like out there trying to find an identity and find out who they are.
Right.
And it seems that you had this journey also. What do you, like, what is just like your position, just like on the struggle to really identify yourself?
Oof, now it's getting like, you know, now it's getting deep over here. Here we go. What is my thoughts? All right, brain. Let's figure this out. I think, okay, in the journey of entrepreneurship, I for sure was at one point super into like hustle culture. And I got lost in that like very badly, to the point where I was like waking up and I was just in grind mode from morning till night. And the people that like were around me, like they saw that, and it was unhealthy actually. Like I was just doing calls after calls all day, every single day, forget to eat, not work out, like not take care of myself. But it was in the name of success, or like what I thought success was supposed to be. After, you know, experiencing that, going through trials and tribulations, and then having like the downfalls that happen when you're an entrepreneur, you know, and like building a business and a career and a lifestyle for yourself, I realized that is absolutely not my goal at all. And for me, identity, and like, you know, I know that this entire podcast is about finding purpose. For me, I think what became extremely important is being extremely grateful for every single moment that you have right now. Like right now, this moment, I'm here. I'm present. Like I'm with you right now. I'm enjoying this conversation. Like I'm so happy that like I'm in this new studio. Like this is so cool. Like I just love the fact that we're here and we can do this together and like really create something, you know? And that is like everything to me. And I think that you find yourself and you find your identity and like just who you are, the more that you can just take a second to step back and just appreciate where you are, you know, and like what's going on in your life at the current moment.
Yeah, it's so funny that you say that because like 2024 was very much a year of me just throwing a lot of things at the wall and seeing what's stuck. And, in that process, I feel like I did lose myself where, I was like, I want to work with nonprofits or I want to do this or I want to get into real estate.
Yeah.
And one of the things that stuck to the wall was this, like I want to be in a position where I continue to pour a lot into this podcast. Obviously, the place to the place of full monetization of the podcast, I got to live. But like, I really get a lot out of having these conversations with people and hearing what they've gone through to overcome not just the external factors, but the internal factors that led them to find their purpose.
Yeah.
And the more stories I hear, the more reassured I feel in that this was my purpose, where it's like, hey, like these are conversations that people should be having, but they're not. Right. And that's why I did take a role with this podcasting company so I can learn more about the world and meet other people in the podcasting space to grow it so that I can reach a broader audience who feels comfortable with being very vulnerable and transparent with their stories.
Yeah.
And in that process, like this past year, like to a certain extent, like a lot of the things that you mentioned that are really important is like, hey, like what really feeds me? I wasn't feeding myself as much as I was making myself look good externally.
Right.
Which is something I did for years.
Yeah. Same.
And now it's just like, what? Like, I don't really care what anyone says as long as my people and myself, obviously, like is happy and feeling fulfilled in what I'm doing. And obviously like paying bills and, and stacking money and doing the right thing. And, a lot of the decision-making that factored in early on was just like, okay, like I put myself out there like in 2022 and launched a business and like really was like, all right, like balls to the wall, and now it's like kind of taking a step back and pivoting. Other people will view it as failure when, what, like, I don't care, because at the end of the day, it really wasn't a failure. It was a victory because it led me to what I'm doing now.
Every single thing in your life, working in your favor somehow.
Yeah. And I think there's so many people like afraid to like backpedal.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think it has everything to do with literally what you're talking about, which is the fear of what other people are going to think of them or how they'll perceive them. And like, just while we're here, hats off to you that you've done this. It takes a lot to have an idea and then get it in motion and execute and have people that are here to help you and, put yourself out there. Like, congratulations that you're doing this and that you're consistent with it, like, yeah, you have to give yourself flowers because there's a lot of people that are like, I want to start a podcast and then it never takes off, you know?
No, it's so true. And it's also, and let's be honest. And I also parlayed that into an executive level role with a company that I believe in.
Let's go.
So it's like, that is something for me that I struggle with in a way where it's like, I'm not used to winning sometimes. And I'm always like ready for something to like fall from underneath it. And now it's like, I'm beginning to understand the reason why things fell from underneath is because I was in a period of life where my decision-making didn't match the winning. So like didn't support the winning, and if your decision making isn't supporting the wins, then the wins are temporary. Yeah. Does that make sense?
No, it definitely does.
Yeah.
I'm in a very interesting place in my life right now, actually. And I also don't want to get how, like, the topics of like politics and religion can be a little sensitive and a little touchy. But for me, 100%, like I have found a lot of value in God. Yeah. And the reason that I'm saying this right now is because of the fact that I have struggled with decision making for so long. And I feel like as soon as I started to get closer to my faith, is when decisions started to become a lot easier for me because I could just have better discernment over what is going to be a better choice. Whereas before I would weigh out all the pros and cons. I would like do laundry lists of like, well, this is the opportunity cost of if I do this versus this, and this is what the outcome could look like. And I would play out all of these different decisions. And a lot of times
all these different decisions, all these different outcomes.
All these different outcomes.
Yeah.
Thank you. All these different outcomes of what each potential decision could be.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, like, I wouldn't even like execute on any of them because I would just like, I would be overwhelmed. And like, I just wanted to share that because this is so recent for me where like, like in the past, like few months that I've been just trying to like listen to my intuition. You know how people are like, trust your gut, you know?
Yeah.
For me right now, I'm kind of understanding that my gut for me is, it's God talking to me. And he's telling me, listen, I put this thought in your head. That's it. And for some reason, I always thought like I have a lot of Christian friends and a lot of my mentors are like in faith. Mm-hmm. And I always was like, you guys are just saying, whatever you're saying, like God's not talking to you. You know what I mean? Like how you're not hearing his voice. And I thought it was like this like deep manly voice that like I was like supposed to hear that would be God. And they're like, no, Shania, it's you. Yeah. So like all those little thoughts that you have in your mind that are like, do this, that's your gut and that's your intuition telling you, no, maybe lean more into that. So I'm leaning into that more and trusting that more. And it's helped my decision-making process a lot recently.
Well, it's so funny that you say that because I think that I'll speak for myself. Like there's so many times when like I know what was right or wrong. And people word it differently now. You talk about trusting your gut. Like, what's a red flag? Like, people say, oh, there's red flags. Like, red flags is going against your gut, right? So it's like, word it how you want.
Yeah.
But, like, at the end of the day, like, when in your heart and your gut, you're being told that this is the direction you should go. Because when you choose that decision, it goes against your gut. That feeling gets a lot more intense, doesn't it? And people are like,
isn't that nice?
It's so true. But I love what you said about kind of leaning into your faith. Because like, I've had like a bunch of people come on this podcast and talk about their faith. And I think faith plays such an important role into, how we choose to live.
Yeah.
And
for sure.
We all have faith in something. Mm-hmm. It's just kind of like, what is it? Mm-hmm. What is it for me?
Yeah.
I just think that like people get turned off a lot by the word by God.
Yeah, 100%. And I understand it too. Yeah. I understand it because I was one of those people. And like it's very new to me to be speaking about God and faith. If you had me on this podcast maybe 2 years ago, I probably wouldn't even mention God. Now it's every single day. I'm like, I wake up and I listen to worship music. I'm reading the Bible now. I'm intentionally trying to get closer and build a relationship because it's made my life easier. And if my life can be easier just off the fact of like, I have this like newfound faith, then it's worth it for me to speak about it, even if it makes me as well as other people a little bit uncomfortable. Like in my family, I'm talking about God, I could see like, my dad roll his eyes a little bit or, with my friends that aren't religious at all, like I'll mention something about God and, it's just something that gets brushed over and I understand it. So I'm never going to push a belief on any person, but all I can do is just like share how it's changed my life and hope that somebody one day will understand what it is that I mean, because I didn't understand it for a long time.
Yeah. Was there something that happened that made you feel that like, all right, like I'm in this place where I don't have the answers. Everything I'm doing isn't working. Let's turn to God.
Yeah.
I want to talk about like all the different communities that you've been blessed to have experienced. Mm-hmm. What was your favorite travel experience? Were you just in Italy?
I was. Yeah. I was just out there. Favorite travel experiences is pretty difficult. I think that I would say that I really loved my time in Spain. And the reason why was because that was one of the trips that took me out of the hustle culture mentality, because I started to experience like, and this is all across like Europe, other countries, like this is not specific to just Spain alone, but it's where I saw it so like prominent. You'll see like little 3-year-old, 4-year-old kids with their like abuelas and like 2 a.m. and they're just like having a nice drink outside. The kids are playing in the park. They don't like live to work. They don't
Yeah.
live to make money. They just live to live. And if you ask somebody out there, like, hey, what do you do? That's a weird question. Like, that's such a strange question to them because they're, what do you mean? What do I do? Like, right now I'm sipping vino. Like, what do you,
Yeah.
like, that's what I do. Like, I'm doing this right now. And I thought that that was such a, like, refreshing perspective to have. And it was something that I wanted to take with me and, like, keep with me in my heart when I came back to the States because obviously, like, I like being an entrepreneur. I like being in the hustle and bustle of things, but it's also very important to remember that that's not the goal. Like for me, I like entrepreneurship because I like the game. I like the game of business and I like the game of like leveling up. But I don't ever want to turn into like one of these people that's just like do or die, all or nothing. If you're not a millionaire, you're nothing. Like,
Did you find yourself turning into that person in 2023?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
I definitely did. I was just like, I need to be a billionaire. Like, I need to be a billionaire. I need to have all my action plans like thought out. I need to only surround myself with certain people. I need to cut everything else off. And like, to some extent, like that's great because you're goal oriented. That's important. But to another extent, you can lose yourself, how we talked about, like deeply. And so like Spain was a really good trip for me because I was now kind of like, wait, look at life. You know what I mean? I was like, wait, hold on, look at life. Like, look at this beautiful world that we have. Look at how these people are so happy and like just experiencing every single day so well. And I've met literal millionaires that are so miserable, so unhealthy, so down bad in every other aspect of their life besides finance. And I met people that have like $2 in their pocket that are the happiest people. They love their life. They wake up every morning with a smile. Everybody loves them.
They'll
They love
give you $1.
you know? So it's like it really shapes how you look at just like people. So when I meet people, I do not base anything off of their like status or their rank or their title. For me, that's like the lowest form of like accomplishment of a person. I think it's, obviously something that you respect. I'll always respect it, but it's something of like, I really value people based on their character and based on their integrity and their morals and who they are and what their like heart is. And that's, I learned that very early in the entrepreneurship game, but now it's something that like I just take with me for everything. So yeah, I love that trip, but I've been really blessed to be able to create little communities in different pockets of the world now. So I can go to different countries and, message people and they'll be there and look out. And I think that's a cool skill. Yeah. I think that's a really beautiful thing, to just be able to do.
I mean, one thing that you said that's like ringing really loudly is like you ask someone in a foreign country, like, what do you do? And they're like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
And it's so funny because that's the first question
you
we
ask here. Yeah. It's literally
like,
number one.
And people will either engage with you or not engage with you based on the answer to the question
that you give them. Yeah.
Which is even crazier because that tells nothing about who this person is, how he chooses to live their life, their values, their morals, whether just a quality human being.
Truly. Like,
I mean, it does say, hey, like, okay, they
it
work
says
hard.
that they can do things. Yeah. It says that they're capable of different things, which is why I say like, I'll respect it. You know what I mean? I will never knock somebody for success in any capacity that you've built for yourself. Like hats off, but it's also like, that doesn't mean that I want to work with you or I want to like lock arms with you.
It makes me want to take my approach when it comes to, all right, like I've talked about this all the time. I hate networking events. I go to them.
Hey, how are you?
I have a lot of friends who ask me to go to them.
Yeah, because I'm thinking about it. The first networking event that I met you at, it wasn't even really like, it was a nice little New York City like little thing, but it was more for
I treated that as a holiday party.
Yeah, it was more for the culture. It wasn't like, because when I'm thinking about it, I'm like, I don't know that I've seen you at too many, but also.
I think I met you at A to B Con 1 or 2.
Okay. One I was at that I spoke. 2, I just kind of popped by.
Okay, then I think I met you briefly there.
Okay.
But regardless, like I remember, like that's how I kind of got into this whole game with the Warm Heart Life and everything.
Yeah.
And like I owe so much to Brandon.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
I love the shit out of Brandon.
I love Brandon as well. And Brandon, we love you. We love you.
It's so funny because like in my end of the year episode, I actually like said like a really beautiful thing about Brandon because Brandon, the community that he builds is great. But like amazing. It also got me into the networking event game. And we would go to a bunch early on, and then the patterns that I noticed from them was I was seeing the same people every single time.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't connecting with the real person, if that makes sense. I was connecting with the what do you do?
The version of that person, the business persona.
The facade.
Yeah.
And now, like I'll go to network events and instead I'll sit there, I'll have a drink, I'll whoever through the event, especially if I know them, I'm here to support you.
Yeah.
And if I'm lucky, I'll maybe get 2 contacts. And I really this is what the conversation's like. Listen, it's so nice to meet you. I love what you do. I like your energy, but we're not going to have a meaningful conversation right now. Here's my link. Set up a one-on-one, and we'll sit down and have a one-on-one. And that's what I do. And I schedule a one-on-one with them.
Look at that, though.
And that has actually opened up more meaningful relationships with that approach than trying to shake as many goddamn hands as I can.
Yeah.
And I love people.
Oh,
people say that all the time.
That was fully before me. That version.
People say that all the time. I'm not going to remember half these people's names. All right. And then they're like DMing me and telling me that I met them.
Hey, so good to meet you.
And I'm like, okay, well, refresh my memory because I have no goddamn clue. But I got to work on that. And now like I'm a little bit organized with my CRM and I have everything set up in a way where it's like, I know who to go to. But when it comes to the relationships that I choose to water consistently and daily, it's become kind of tighter. Yeah. And I like it that way.
Yeah. More selective of who you're giving your energy to.
Yeah. I need to be that way because that I realize that's really more who I am.
No, I
not
agree
really
with
reflective
you.
of who they are.
I agree. 100%.
Like I have nothing against any of these people. Like they're all great people and I'm sure they all love their families and they all whatever.
Yeah.
But for me, that like overwhelms.
Yeah, 100%. It's so crazy that like this is what we're talking about right now because I was 100% the person that I'm going to talk to every single person in the room. And I would do that so consistently.
Buzzing around.
Every single person. You can where's Shania? Oh, she's over there. Oh, she's over there. And I would talk to every person. And that was my network marketer brain because my network marketer brain was create contacts, share your info, and then talk to them after. Yeah. Now they're going to be somebody that maybe you can do potential business with. That was literally how I thought all the time, 24/7. I was like, I would walk out into the world and like go to the grocery store and be like, who am I about to do business with? Like literally my brain was so wired that way. And it wasn't until like this entire process of like the year of like growth and like real like deep soul searching that I realized I actually don't want to do that. My skill is connecting with people. Like if there's one thing I can do, if you need me to connect somebody, point me over there like in person and I'll go connect with them. I lack in like the online digital world on the phone and all that stuff. And like all my real ones know that about me. But when it comes to connecting, like I would do that so often that it actually became weird when I started going to different events and I was like, wait, I don't feel the need to connect with them. And I was like, am I crazy? Like, is something wrong with me? And I was like, no, this is normal. Like you shouldn't feel the need to connect with every single person and just let the conversations that happen flow.
Yeah. Well, one of the things also was that the people who I noticed doing that came off as inauthentic. So am I coming off as inauthentic when I'm doing that?
It's a great thing to think about. Yeah, I'm like, everybody's like, oh, this girl's so awesome. Goes home, they're like, I hate that girl. Like, she talked to me and everybody else in there, and it's like, like you'd be right to think that, Am
I coming off as me? Because that's all I want to come off as.
Yeah.
And if you read me as standoffish because I didn't come and shake your hand rigorously and ask you what you do, that's a reflection of you and not me. And I think that was like really important for me to acknowledge. Yeah. And, it kind of transformed the way that I network. Yeah. I still network, don't get me wrong, but it's more kind of like low key. Yeah. I'll meet someone with coffee. I think you'd work well with these 3 people. Let me set up the connect. What you do with those contacts is great. Is there anyone do you think that like would benefit from me meeting them?
For sure.
And it's so cool.
Just it's easier cool. though, isn't it? Like it's like I feel so much less pressure of like I need to create these connections, and now it's just okay. Like I'm gonna build real relationships with the people that like I actually genuinely feel are good to build a relationship with. Yeah,
and so like having been in that like hustler mentality, talk a little bit about that. I want to jump into that. And
she was scary.
describe like hustler Shania
Yeah.
and your approach now.
Hustler Shania was like, I don't know. I don't think I'd be her friend today. She was a girl that
You kind of a bitch.
I wasn't mean, but I would cut people off instantly.
Okay.
Like instantly. Yes, that's the answer, I think, to the question. Yes,
No.
I was. I literally like wouldn't talk to people if they were not trying to like build together. Like, and it was bad because it was like, I cut off a lot of friendships.
Like uber transactional?
Yeah, but it wasn't with like, if I knew you already, it's like, okay, how can I actually help you? But I brainwashed myself in like a really good way though, but still brainwashed myself because I got into entrepreneurship and I got into the world of trading. And if I can just like really quickly explain what trading did for me, it changed my entire outlook on the world. Because once you understand trading, and not like these gurus online, they're like, yeah, I'm a trader and like I can teach you how to make 6 figures. Like, no, like I was actually like studying charts. I was marking up, like I was like sitting behind the screen, crypto and
stocks.
indices. Yeah. So like I really immerse myself in the knowledge of trying to learn. But when you try to learn, what happens is like you're going down this rabbit hole of understanding how the world works. Because when you start to really understand trading, you're understanding how money moves. You're understanding who's moving money. You're understanding where the money's going and the fact that like a lot of people just don't understand this information. So I was in the name of like trying to save the world. I was so adamantly like, you guys, you need to wake up to like this. It's not in your favor. Like the system is not in your favor. The system is literally trying to pull you down and like keep you where you are.
You're talking about the financial system.
Yeah, the financial system. But then also like once you get into that, like that's a whole nother rabbit hole. Like that could be a whole nother podcast right there.
Yeah,
like
we could talk
you know
about
what
that
I mean?
record.
Like
I know
I'll talk, I'll talk about just like the rabbit hole of rabbit holes forever because it's like you start to understand the finance world and then it's like, wait, the media world, wait, the health world, wait, everything. Like a lot of things are not actually serving human beings.
Yeah.
And most human beings don't understand that. And it's, again, not their fault because we were not taught things like this in school. We were not taught things like this by our parents most of the time. So it's like, if you're not seeking out this information on your own and like getting mentorship and getting into these kinds of like communities where you're learning stuff like this, you're never going to know it. So like, I was so like in the name of like trying to be so good and so helpful. I was like, guys, like wake up to this. But that made me, like you said, like I was a little B word. Like because I was like, if you don't want to wake up to the reality of life, then you're going to stay where you are. I wasn't like super horrible. I get what you're saying. You know, like I'm like kind of exaggerating a little, but I was definitely like, if you are going to stay where you are and you're not even open-minded enough to like look into understanding different perspectives, then I don't know that we can be friends. And I really stood on that.
Yeah.
And like, that was Hustler Shania. Like, she was just like, we need to create, we need to build, we need to like work. And the version of myself now is I love every single person where they are. I appreciate and respect every single person, however they come, however they think, however they feel. And if I can in any way offer some sort of insight or, you know, just mindset or perspective that can help them further in their life, I am so happy to do it, but I'm never going to force my beliefs or my thoughts or my ideas onto another person. And that's the approach that I have now is I just will let the right people come to me with the questions that they have and serve however I can serve. So yeah, I
love that.
It's been a lot of growth.
No, God bless. And I think we covered so much. I really want to just ask you like just a couple questions. Usually I format them to be like rapid fire, but they never are. So I'm not even going to say
I'm like, should I be rapid fire? I'm like, yapper me.
But what advice would you give to someone on the journey of finding purpose?
Take a step back from listening to everybody else all the time. I think that a lot of people get caught up in what everybody else has to say instead of really fine-tuning with them what their own personal goals are and what their mission of like impact is. You know, I think that everybody has unique gifts, and if they can lean into that a little bit more, they'll be able to find their purpose a little bit easier.
I love that. What does purpose mean to you, and what do you do on a daily basis to make sure that you're living in your purpose?
what does purpose mean to me? Purpose means existing in your most authentic self and being true to the version of you that lights you up inside. Not anybody else, not your peers, your coworkers, your family, anybody else, but being true to just who you are. What I think that I do every single day is I just ground myself to be extremely, extremely present. I do that every single day. I take moments all of the time, whether I'm like walking outside, whether I'm sitting down in this chair, where I just pause for a second and I just like take it all in, like just the moment that I'm in right now, take it all in, appreciate it for what it is. And then, come back to like, okay, my human body and the person that I am sitting in the chair right now. I do that often. And then the last thing I would say in just that entire topic is I give everything to God. Give it all to God.
Shania Jay, thank you so much for joining me.
Yay, thank you for having me.
Named after Shania Twain.
Yes.
That did impress me much.
Yes.
And can you let my audience know like how they can get in touch with you?
Yeah.
And anything you have upcoming that you'd like them to know?
Yeah, well, I'm on social medias, Shania Jay, Shania. Instagram is Shania.J, Facebook is Shania Jay. I honestly am like, I need a team of people to like get my social medias in order for me, but that's the easiest way that you could find me right now. I am going to be launching something this year. I'm going to be super excited for it. I don't have too much beans to spill right now at this moment, but I'm working on a pretty big project. This guy's inspiring me right now, but no, I'm looking to start a community where our mission and our impact is just literally spreading as much love as possible in the world. It's the only impact of it. I'm probably not going to gain anything monetarily from it, but the purpose is just building a community to spread more goodness. I think the world needs it right now.
Shania Jay.
Yeah.
The community builder.
Let's go.
God bless. All right. Thank you guys. I really encourage you to obviously listen to this podcast, listen to all the previous podcasts, leave a review, whatever you want, share it with your friends. If anything you hear resonates with someone that you think needs to hear it, you'd be doing them a service. God bless you and see you next week.